Today we are going to be simplifying fractions raised to fractional exponents. So let's take a look at this first problem here. We have 81 over 169 to the 1/2 power. So what we have to remember from yesterday is that this 1 represents our power. The 2 in the denominator represents the number of roots. So what that means is we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make 81 and 169. And then we're going to raise that to the first power. So we write down the square root of 81, all raised to the first power, but we're also going to do the same thing with 169. Two numbers that multiply to make 169, and then we'll raise that to the first power. So when we go ahead and do that work, what we've got is, since we have an odd number, we're looking for odd numbers, and 9 times 9 makes 81. So 81 to the first power. Now two numbers that make 169, well, I know that 9 times 9 makes 81, so it's got to be bigger than 9. 10 times 10 makes 100, but that's an even number, so we got to try odd numbers. Well, you work your way up to 13. 13 times 13 does make 169. But we raise those to the first power. But anything to the first power just gives us those same numbers. So 9/13, that is our answer. Well, taking a look at the next one here, we have 81 over 27, all raised to the 1/3 power. So what we're going to end up doing is the same sort of thing. But this time we're going to take this 8, and we're going to find the cubic root of it. That's what the 3 represents, the number of roots. 3 numbers that multiply to make 8, and then raise that to the first power. Do the same thing over here, 3 numbers that make 27, and then raise that to the first power. So go ahead and do some work there. We're looking at even numbers that multiply to make 8. Well, if you try 2 times 2 times 2, that equals 8. So there it is, 8 to the first power is what we'll end up doing next. Now 3 numbers that make 27. Since we're dealing with an odd number here, try odd numbers. 3 times 3 times 3 makes 27. So there it is. 3 would be the number. I made a mistake here. Does anyone see what I ended up doing? Well, I wrote the number 8. And that's not right. That's the radicand here. I want the root. And the root is 2. So I should have written it 2 instead of that 8. But I still bring it to the first power. I go ahead and do the work, and that's just 2/3. So there is the answer. Well, 1/16 all raised to the 4th power. So let's see what we got here. So when we do this work, we're doing 1, 4 numbers that multiply to make 1, and then raising that to the first power. Do the same thing down below. 4 numbers that multiply to make 16, and then we raise that to the first power. So we go ahead and do some work there. 1 times 1 times 1 makes 1, and 4 numbers to make 16. Well, we know that 3 2's make 8, so that means 1 more 2 there, and that would give us 16. So there's our number 2. And again, we're raising those to the first power. But anything to the first power just makes that number itself. So just 1/2 would be our answer. Here we have some different powers here. We have a 3, another 3, and a 2 up here. So let's try these next few problems. So this one here, we're looking for 4 numbers that multiply to make 16, and then we're raising that to the 3rd power. Down below, we're looking for 4 numbers that multiply to make 81, and then raising that to the 3rd power. Well, we just did this one on the last problem. 4 numbers that make 16. We saw that was just 2. But we're not done there. We still have to raise 2 to the power. That's why I like to raise them to the first power every time to get in the habit of doing that. So this time I have to do 2 to the 3rd power. But we'll deal with that once we figure out what the 4th root of 81 is. Well, 81 is an odd number, so let's try some odd numbers. 2 3's make 9. 2 more 3's make 9. 9 and 9 make 81. So there it is, bringing 3 to the 3rd power. So we go ahead and do some work there. Multiply out the 2 times 2 times 2. We see that is 8. Down below, 3 times 3 times 3. Well, that's going to give us 27. So there it is. 8/27 is the answer. Well, looking at the next one, we have 2 numbers. Remember, this is the root. 2 numbers that multiply to make 4. And then we're raising that to that 3rd power. The number up top is the value we raise it to. Same thing down below. 2 numbers that multiply to make 25. we raise that to the third power. So we go ahead and do some work there. The two numbers that make 4 we saw were 2. We raise that 2 to the third power. Same thing down below. Two numbers that make 25, we see that's 5. But then we raise that to the third power. We just saw in the last problem, 2 to the third power is 8. But how about this 5 to the third? Well, 5 times 5 makes 25. But we still have one more 5 to multiply by. So 5 times 25, think of quarters. How many quarters make, or 5 quarters make how much money? $1.25. So there it is, 125. 8 over 125. Well, that number is going to be used again because as I see on this one, here we have 3 numbers that multiply to make 343. And then we'll raise this time to the second power. The top number represents the power we'll raise it to. Down below, we need 3 numbers to make 125. Again, we just saw that one. We're going to raise that to the second power once we find that number. So we go ahead and do some work there. 3 numbers that make 343. Well, again, you're trying odd numbers. I know it's bigger than 5 because I know this one's 5 because I just did that. 5 times 5 times 5 makes 125. Well, let's try another odd number that's a little bigger. Let's try 7s. 7 times 7 makes 49 times by another 7. Well, these two numbers make 63, so I got to carry a 6. That's a promising sign, 3 at the end. 7 times 4 makes 28, plus 6 makes 34. That does end up working out. So now we put in a 7, but we have to square it because that's what the power says. 5, and we square that. We already knew this was 5, but then we got to square them. And so our answer is going to be 49 over 25. And there's our answer. Well, those are some of the problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.